ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। We continue with verse number 35, chapter 4. Verse number 35 reads, यज्ञात्वा न पुनर्मोहम् एवं यास्यसि पाण्डव येन भूतान्यशेषेण द्रक्ष्यस्यात्मन्यतो मयि। यज्ञात्वा न पुनर्मोहम् एवं यास्यसि पाण्डव येन भूतान्यशेषेण द्रक्ष्यस्यात्मन्यतो मयि। Knowing which you shall not again get deluded thus, O Pandava, by which you will see all beings in the self, also in me. Three verses, he is giving the benefit of the supreme knowledge that you get from the Guru. The previous verse, he spoke about the qualified student going to the Guru and the Guru imparting the knowledge. And what is the benefit of that knowledge? Jnana palam. What is the result of gaining this knowledge? What is the benefit of gaining this knowledge? The benefit of gaining this knowledge, he says, is one, Jivatma Paramatma Aikya. The union happens. Second, all delusion goes away. Sarva Moha Nashka. That's what he said in this verse. I'm putting it in the points wise. That's all. It is the same thing that is said in the verse. First is the Aikyam. Aikyam means the union of the Jivatma and the Paramatma. That happens. Second one is Sarva Moha Nashaha. Destruction of all conflicts in life, the delusions, the confusions of life, the misunderstanding of life goes away. The next verses is going to talk about all karma nasha. Even the karmas also get wiped away. This is the jnana palam, the benefit of gaining this knowledge. You will see all beings in the self, also in me. Yena bhutanyaseshena drakshyasi atmani mayi. You see the self everywhere. Not only you see the self everywhere, you see in me also. What is it, seeing the self everywhere and seeing in me? What does it mean? First thing, when you see something, any perception, anything that you experience, all experiences, you see the nama rupa, and influenced by that nama rupa. All experiences happen by nama rupa, names and forms. In fact, four things: nama, rupa, guna, karma. The four things is what you experience. In a very poetic way, we keep saying nama rupa, nama rupa. Practically speaking, there are four things: nama, rupa, guna, and karma. Now, this nama, rupa, guna, karma is what you experience. By experiencing that nama, rupa, guna, karma, you miss the essence. You miss the truth. So what is jnanam? Jnanam is, while you are experiencing the nama, rupa, guna, karma, recognizing the inner self. As you are seeing this, you understand that there is something, there is the self that is at the core. This is jnana. This is seeing the self, where by which you will see all beings in the self. All beings in the self. Meaning, the core, which is the self, will be recognized by you. As you are transacting through the nama, rupa, guna, karma, your identification is with the self. You transact with the nama, rupa, guna, karma, but identify with the self is jnanam. You identify with nama, rupa, guna, karma and miss the self is ignorance. Now you cannot transact with the self. You cannot deal with the self. There is no transaction possible with Brahman. Now what transaction you can have? So all experiences, transactions in life is always with nama, rupa, guna, karma only. So you transact with nama, rupa, guna, karma, but where is your identification? The identification lies with the self. Then you have jnanam, which is what he says as seeing the self in all beings. Also in me. Also in me. It's not only in you, it is not only in you, it is everywhere. In fact, that is the only thing that is there. That's what it means. You see it in yourself, you see it in others, you see it everywhere. It means only that exists. Nothing else exists. This is the jnanam. Knowing which you shall not get deluded again. What is delusion? Moha. Moha, delusion, means not seeing things as they are. These definitions should be very clear. Knowledge means seeing it as it is. Moha means not seeing it as it is. Exactly the opposite. Again I repeat. Jnanam means seeing things as it is. Moha means not seeing it as they are. Now, what happens is, moha, you recognize the moha, you recognize that you are in moha only in relation to the pain. Only in relation to the pain that you experience, you can recognize the moha. Per se, there is no such thing called. The expression of moha is what makes you to recognize that you have it. Like you have a disease, the temperature rising is the indication that you have a disease. Similarly, moha per se is very difficult to understand. Moha per se, it's not that you cannot understand. Moha per se is very difficult to understand. You need a very powerful intellect to understand moha per se. What is understanding moha per se? Moha per se is understanding, recognizing the mysteries of life and bowing down to that mystery. Again, I repeat. Recognizing the mysteries of life, bowing down to that mystery. Athoda stop panna, it is not moha. You are just in an emotional trip. Recognizing the mysteries of life, going down to the mysteries of life and seeking that which is beyond all this. So you recognize the mystery of life, you recognize the limitations of the intellect through which you cannot understand the mysteries, and you seek that which is beyond all this. Then you are from moha. This is possible for most of the human beings on a practical plane. Since the intellect is not that developed, very difficult to understand moha like this. So how does everybody recognizes moha? Wherever samsara is experienced. The experience of samsara is moha. The experience of samsara is moha. Now, what is experience of samsara? Wherever there is a experience of bondage, wherever there is an experience of limitation, wherever there is an experience of a pain, you understand it as moha. Oh, Abdina sir, when we are experiencing the joys of life, we are not in moha. That is also moha only. Because the joys that you experience in life doesn't give you any real joy. And in fact, the joy that you experience in life is a preparation for greater sorrow. That's why the joys in life is not a joy in life. It is not a pessimistic view of life. The realistic view of life is the joys of life that you experience results in a greater, always will result in a greater pain. So what is samsara? What is delusion on a practical plane? The samsara that you experience at the intellectual level, emotional level. And what does samsara means? Samsara means bondage and limitation. Wherever you experience limitation, wherever you experience bondage, suffocation, that is samsara. This is how you understand moha. Wherever there is, because of this limitation, there is a pain, and that pain is delusion, moha. Another way of understanding that you are in moha is the conflicts that you experience because of a situation. A pain, a conflict that you experience because of a situation is an indication that you are caught up in samsara moha. Situation per se doesn't cause pain. The subjectivity, the personal affectation because of the situation that causes pain is samsara. Again, I repeat. What is samsara? Situation is not the samsara. Because of a situation, there is a individual affectation. When I say individual affectation means that individual is affected more than the rest. That for that situation is samsara for that individual. By gaining the knowledge, he is saying, knowing which you shall not get deluded again. You shall not get deluded again. You are deluded now. What is the meaning? You shall not get deluded again. You are deluded now. You can try any methods to come out of this delusion. You will keep getting deluded again and again and again. Only by knowing you will get out of this delusion. So what he implies is this. One is you are deluded now. Second is you may have tried any number of methods to come out of this delusion, but what you will not get out, what you will not come out, the delusion. You will not come out of the delusion. By knowing you are free of the delusion. Now, freedom from delusion means understanding what delusion is. Then only you can be free from delusion. Which is what I am trying to elaborate. Experiencing samsara is delusion. Being affected by a situation is delusion. Being affected by a situation is delusion. But sir, some situation you have to get affected. No. How can you not be affected in all situations? Some situation you have to be affected. Knowledge says there is no situation that can affect you. There is no situation that will affect you. Why there is no situation that can affect you? Because there is no, what in the language of philosophy known as personalizing the situation. Affectation comes only when you personalize the situation. Affectation comes only when you personalize a situation. When you see it as a situation per se, there will not be an affectation. Ignorance is personalizing a situation, and the moment you personalize, you are bound to get affected. The moment you personalize, you will be affected. You can't personalize and not be affected. That possibility doesn't exist. So, what is moha? You personalize. You personalize. This verse is talking about the benefit of knowledge in relation to the intellect. In relation to the intellect. That is why analysis and knowledge we are talking about. The later on verses is going to talk about freedom from action. Later on is going to talk about freedom from action. Here it is, what is the benefit of knowledge at the level of the intellect? It is the intellect that get delusion is an aspect of the intellect. When I say it's an aspect of the intellect, means untrained intellect. And through this knowledge, you train yourself, and the intellect is free from delusion. And when the intellect is free from delusion, there is no more moha. And how does the intellect, how does the knowledge helps you not to personalize the situation? By looking at the situation objectively. By looking at the situation objectively. And what is objectivity? What is the practice of objectivity? The practice of objectivity is done by two methods. You practice objectivity by two methods. Number one, the possessed analysis. This is how you practice objectivity. The possessed analysis is the way you practice objectivity. Number one. The second method by which you practice objectivity is the classic Upanishadic style. Neti, neti, neti. These are the two methods by which you can practice objectivity. Neti, you understand. Neti means na iti. The Sanskrit word neti means not this, not this, not this. You become objective to it. The second method by which you can practice objectivity is the possessed analysis. What is this possessed analysis? We have done this any number of times. We know it. I'm repeating it again. The possessed. What is the possessor and possessed means? My book. When you say my book, my refers to the possessor. Book is the possession. My book, my table, my watch, my house, my family, my children, my wife, my husband, my body, my mind, my intellect. Objectivity is practiced when you can segregate the two. What is the two? The possessor and the possessed. How does this analysis brings about objectivity? Wherever there is a possessor and the possession, you understand that you are not that. Then only you are able to say that. You will not say, I am the book. You say my book. When you say my book, the subject, the possessor is different from the possessed, which is the object. Number one. Number two, as the subject, the possessor, under terms and conditions you will have it. Under terms and conditions you will let go of it. That is the possessor and possessed. Again I repeat. Possessor and possessed means under terms and conditions you will have it. Under terms and conditions you will let go of it. It means the relationship is because of a utility. Bharya bibhyati tasmin kaye. As a possessor-possessed relationship. Bharya bibhyati tasmin kaye. When wealth goes out, the parivar goes out. Wealth goes out, parivar goes out. All this is an indication to say that we are not criticizing others and saying they are all useless, selfish, self-centered. It's not that. A realistic analysis of the possessor-possessed relationship will make you objective without being critical. Without being frustrated, without being critical, you turn objective. Then only it is objectivity. you are bitter and frustrated, na, you are still affected. Na. You do an analysis, you are separated, but there is a frustration, there is a bitterness, there is an anger, there is a hatred. Na, it is not objectivity. What is objectivity then? Objectivity is a realistic understanding. What is a realistic understanding? The possessor and the possessed. By this analysis of the possessor and the possessed, which is what manana is all about, which is what reflection is all about. Reflection, manana is the ability to do this as much as you can. The capacity by which you can do this as much as you can and not getting affected, not being disturbed. The possessor, possessed. Second way of gaining knowledge is the second method of gaining objectivity is neti. Not this, not this, not this. When you say not this means what? Neti is I have nothing to do with that which is temporary. That is neti. I have nothing to do with that which is temporary is neti. Is this permanent? Neti, not this. This is not permanent. You don't develop a mental attachment to that which is not. You do not develop a mental relationship, a mental attachment to that which is not permanent. Abdina, it is okay to develop attachment with that which is permanent, sir. Again, you cannot develop attachment to that which is permanent. Why? Because you are that. Because you are that, you cannot develop attachment to that. You can develop attachment to a possession. You can develop attachment only when you see something as a possession. The possessor can never get attached to the possessor himself. It is not possible. Possessor will get attached to a possession. Is a jnana. This is by this knowledge, by this practice. All this looks very difficult. All this looks very impractical also. When are we going to do all these things? Might as well pranipatena pratipakka pranipatena pariprashnena seveya itself looked much better than, much easier, much doable, much better than this. This is the jnana phala. This is the benefit of knowledge at the level of the intellect. Delusion goes out. Seeing the self in all beings and in me is the positive way of saying it. The negative way of saying it is the negative way of saying it is the delusion goes out. The Sanskrit word evam. Evam means as you are in conflict now, when you gain this knowledge, conflicts goes out. The Sanskrit word evam says as you are in conflict now, you will not have these conflicts. What is the conflict you are in now? What is the conflict of what is the conflict in every human being? The conflict is this. The attempts that you make, the intelligence, the attempts, the effort that you make to keep the impermanent permanent. The intelligence, the effort, the struggle, the hard work, whatever be it, all this results in conflict. Why everything results in conflict? Because you try to make the impermanent, permanent. So all attempts that you make will necessarily end up in conflicts only. Why? Because the impermanent can never become, the impermanent can never be made permanent. You can keep it for a period of time. It doesn't matter. You can keep it for 10 years. You can keep it for 40 years. You can keep it for 60 years. You can keep your body itself for 80, 90 years. But nevertheless, it is temporary. And whenever you recognize that it is temporary, your efforts becomes futile. You feel that you have wasted your time and effort in this. That is the conflict. Are you able to follow what is the conflict? By gaining this knowledge, this conflict goes out. By gaining this knowledge, this conflict goes out. What is the conflict? If you are making an effort in keeping the impermanent as permanent, the end result is it will be impermanent only. And whenever you recognize that impermanency, you feel that your effort is, your effort is vyartha, waste, in vain. Ellam vyarthamaiduthu, sir, they say. All have become vyartha, useless. 60, 70 years of useless life, sir. Vyartha. Why? Because the impermanent, how much ever you delude yourself to believe that it will be permanent, the reality strikes you. What is the reality? That it is impermanent. This is the conflict. So, how do you avoid the moha? How do you avoid the delusion? Do not personalize a situation. Do not personalize a situation. And we all have our area of personalization. We all have our area of personalization. When Vivian Richards announced retirement, I was crying. Because you can't see that man anymore you can't see him anymore batting. So crying. MS Dhoni announced retirement. It didn't make any difference because I wasn't a very big, because I stopped following cricket and also deep, because no, it's not I just read the newspaper. I really don't follow it that much anymore. So it doesn't make any difference for a person who is as personalized as I was with Vivian Richards to MS Dhoni. Definitely that fellow will not eat today. At least for the next few days, that fellow will not be eating. Not only, sir. Is this the way to retire? At least Sachin Tendulkar kosam series e vachanga. Just for him to retire, they kept a series so that he can retire. Dhoni is not even having a farewell for. Yeah. Insta he has to retire. When you personalize the situation, there is an affectation. That's all. It doesn't really matter. Now, what A will personalize will be different from what B will personalize. But nevertheless, affectation, samsara, is because of personalizing it. And we all have our areas of personalization, and those are the areas that affect us. Those are the areas that is our samsar. Those are the areas our samsar is, and it causes us pain, and this pain, and trying to deal with this pain, trying to, through knowledge, you overcome this pain. Through knowledge, you transcend this pain. Through knowledge, you overcome this pain. And whenever this pain is transcended, Through this knowledge, you transcend this pain. It will not come back again. That's what it is. Through knowledge, you transcend this pain. It will not come back again. Punarmoham. Punarmoham na punarjanma. Avladhan. Punarmoham is nothing but punarjanma. You gain this knowledge. Punaha moham na. Punaha moham na means no delusion. You will not get deluded again. You will not get deluded again. The benefit of knowledge. The third way of practicing objectivity. I said 2 steps to practice objectivity. The third way of practicing objectivity is this. The third way of practicing objectivity. 3 methods of objectivity. Sakshi Bhava practice panona 3 method da. One is the possessor possessed. Second is neti. The third practice of objectivity is extraordinarily beautiful. The third practice of objectivity is titiksha. Titiksha. These are the 3 ways in which these are the 3 methods by which a jnani practices objectivity, and by the continuous practice of these 3, he says, he doesn't get deluded again. That's why it's a very beautiful word. See, some of the beautiful words we have corrupted so much, we are not able to, we have corrupted that word, but we have not found a substitute for a better, we have not found a better word. Yeah, always we are masters in that. We will destroy the good, but we cannot substitute with, some of the words are like that. Adrishta, beautiful word is the word adrishta. Similarly, beautiful is the word prarabdha. Titiksha is prarabdha, that's all. Titiksha means prarabdha. Prarabdha means that which you have to, prarabdha is that which you have to experience. Anyway, you have to experience it, and why be bitter about it? That's all. That is objectivity. If you understand, if anybody understands like this, if anybody understands, that's why this culture was like that. I'm just giving this as an example. Don't take it beyond the scope. The culture, they say, no divorces. In this culture, not much of a divorce. Why? Because husband and wife is a prarabdha. You got married, it's a prarabdha, and that's it. You live with that person for the rest of your life. There is no need to, you don't. There may be ups and downs, there may be anger, there may be fights, there may be frustration, but one thing is what? There is no such thing called, one thing is what? There is no such thing called separation. There is no such thing called, if at all there is a separation, nature only will separate. And how nature separates? That method we know, how nature separates. That method, you know. 3 methods by which a jnani, jnani not an enlightened soul. We are not talking about the enlightened person here. Jnani, the person who is practicing jnanam. These are the 3 methods by which he practices objectivity. I just brought here all the different practices that we talk in different verses. I just put it in one. I just put it in one verse. He is not saying all these things. He is only saying by this knowledge you will not get punarmoha. He's not, all that he said in this verse is, by practicing this, you will not get punarmoha. Now, what does that man practiced that he will not get this, that he didn't get this punarmoha? Is what I'm explaining. What did he do? Samsara. Free from samsara. And what is samsara? Personalizing a situation is called samsara. The samsaram word, you need to have a clear understanding. Personalizing a situation is called samsara. For this battlefield is a samsara for Arjuna because he has personalized it. This battlefield has become a samsara for Arjuna. How did this battlefield become a samsara for Arjuna? Because he has personalized it. What is the personalization? I will be the cause. Are you able to follow how he personalized it? I will be the cause for destruction. I will set the wrong example. All along, I have been setting the right example as Guru Sishyana, Arjuna and Drona. By this battlefield, I will be setting the ulta example now. What? Guru, this fellow, now he raised a revolt against he raised his arms against the Guru. So, in what all ways a person can personalize the situation? You have to see the war and Arjuna. In what all ways a human being can personalize a situation and trouble himself or herself. In what all ways the mind can personalize a situation, in what all ways the mind can view the situation and causes pain to oneself is called samsara. The samsaram, the definition. Meaningless is this personalization. Therefore, meaningless is this samsara. Meaningless is this personalization. Personalizing the situation. Subjectivity of the situation. You can, what is samsara? Subjectivity, the situation, you make it, you look through you. All situations in life, you look through you only. That is samsara. I gave the example of one of my aunt, no? She will buy some wheat or this grains or whatever it is for making the sambar powder. She will say, now vaangnale it gets cloudy. As soon as I buy things to sun dry, it gets cloudy. As though sun is waiting in the entire cosmos. In the entire cosmos, the sun is waiting for this particular lady in this particular village, in this particular place, and as soon as she does it, it gets clouded. This is the personalization. This is called personalizing the situation. And everybody feels about themselves like that, no? Everybody sees things, everybody sees like this. This is moha, this is delusion. This is moha, this is delusion. Okay, how does one get out of this delusion? By practicing objectivity, Sakshi Bhava. Very nice to say, practice Sakshi Bhava. Then the question is, how does one practice Sakshi Bhava? For which? 3 methods. The first method is possessor, possessed. Possessor, possessed analysis. Second is neti. The third is titiksha. The third is titiksha. In all these three, there is no bitterness. In all these three, there is no frustration. In all these three, there is no hatred. In all these three, there is no negativity. So objectivity is seeing the situation as it is, and seeing the situation as it is doesn't create any negativity in you. That is very important. You see the situation as it is and very irritated about it, it is not objectivity. I see this person as incompetent, sir, but that incompetency I can't stand. I can't stand the incompetency, sir. Somebody is putting up with your incompetency. No. As a possessor, I can't stand, I can't tolerate anybody being selfish and self-centered. People are putting up with your selfishness. No. So right through, you see a situation as it is, and you are not. The bitterness, the hatred is an indication whether objectivity is practiced in the right sense or not. One is seeing it as it is, and what is implied here is when you see it as it is, there is no hatred or irritation or frustration. I can't stand people gossiping. That fellow will gossip. How others are gossiping, this fellow will gossip for 1 hour. How others are gossiping. And then he says, I can't stand gossiping. Now, what difference does it mean? This is called moha. This is called moha. Punar moham, you will not get. Technically speaking, punar moham is punar janma. Where there is no moha means there is no delusion. Are you okay till now? Therefore, always what happens is, by me personalizing a situation, I get into a unique difficulty, a unique pain. But sir, I am such an affectionate person. Wherever I see pain, I get affected. Now you will be in pain 24/7. Why? Because the survival of one is through the pain of another. The reality of life is this. The survival of one is through the pain of the other. Therefore, there is no such thing as pain-free, painless, only sukha. That kind of thing doesn't exist. That's why in the Puranic stories, they created an imaginary place called Swarga, where there is only happiness. But even there, they said it is not possible. Even there, 100% happiness is not possible. How they said it? God themselves have jealousies there, no? You find even gods are having jealousy there. If you find devas themselves are having jealousy there, even Swarga is not a place of happiness. Okay, Swarga is not a place of happiness because ange jealousy illam varudhu, fight illam varudhu. So it means whatever is happening here is happening there also. Oh, appadina sir, appadina Kailasha, Vaikunta, those are the places free of this. Who is the best devotee? The comparison starts. Who is closest to God? Who is amongst the devotees? Who ranks amongst the devotees? I have to be the best devotee. That also comes there, and Abdinna, even there is no scope for a painless state. Do not exist. ஒரே ஒரு ஸ்டேஜ் தான் பெயின்லெஸ் ஸ்டேஜ். What is that? Deep sleep. Only area where pain temporarily, now that in all pain goes away in deep sleep because everything is shut down. Yeah, எல்லாம் shut down ஆச்சுன்னா everything looks very quiet and calm and peaceful, no? Which is not real peace at all. Why? Because it is going to, it will manifest again. It will manifest again. Therefore, what is jnanam? Having known this, you shall not get deluded again. Thus, evam. Thus means as you are now. As you are deluded now, you will not get deluded. You will not get deluded again. Removal of delusion means removal of vasanas. Technically, removal of delusion means removal of vasanas. Vasanas means raga dvesha. Vasanas means raga and dvesha. Therefore, this is the benefit of gaining. This is the benefit of gaining the knowledge. A seeker is not interested in these benefits. It happens to him, he says. Understand it in this way. Even here it has to be understood rightly. A seeker is not interested in these benefits and looking for knowledge. You gain this knowledge, this happens. You gain this knowledge, this happens to you. You gain this knowledge, this happens to you. What happens? Objectivity. Objectivity. In the relative sense, it is objectivity. In the absolute sense, Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. Relative sense, objectivity. In the absolute sense, which is what we are interested in. It's not that we are not interested in the relative things, it happens by itself, but the true ideal is what? The Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. And what is this Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam means? The whole universe is the self. The whole universe is the self. It's not that the universe is self. Who am I? Universe is God, sir, but I am not God. Adivdi. If universe is Brahman, if universe is God, if all is God, if all, then who are you? You are also the self. This abhyasa is I am Atma Brahma, Anubhava is Aham Brahmasmi. The abhyasa, the practice of this is I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma is the practice. Aham Brahmasmi is the Anubhava, the experience. Even as you are doing this I am Atma Brahma practice, what all benefits happens? All delusion goes out, and you see by which you will see all beings in the self and also in me. This is the benefit of the knowledge at the level of the understanding. Then there is the benefit of the knowledge at the level of the action. Till now we spoke about benefit of knowledge at the level of the intellect. Now the knowledge has a benefit at the level of the action also. Conflict, mental agitation is because of the wrong attitude behind the action. Mental agitations is because of the wrong attitude behind the action. The wrong attitude driving the action causes conflict, mental agitation. What is the wrong attitude that drives the action? The wrong attitude that drives the action is the ahamkara. Ahamkara, which manifests as ahamkarta. I am the doer, is the wrong attitude behind action that causes agitation. On a practical, I don't know what other word to use. I'm using the word practical. On a relative plane, the selfish are unselfish. And don't worry, how much ever you try to be the selfish and unselfish, moha, pain and all keeps coming back again and again. That's all. If you really want to be free from that, you need to go to the essence. You need to go to the core. And what is the wrong attitude behind action that causes pain? The wrong attitude behind action that causes pain is I am the doer. That kartrutva, that ahamkara. Ahamkartandradalindra ahamkara. I am the doer. I am the doer is the wrong attitude behind the action. And that will result in pain. All human actions results in some kind of an excitement, no? Mental excitement, either in terms of pain or pleasure. All human actions. Second thing in relation to action is, one is the attitude that drives the action, which is ahamkarta, is what produces agitation. The second thing that produces agitation is the result of the action, which is papa or punya. Pleasure and pain is nothing but papa and punya. So, in two ways, you will be affected by the action. One is the attitude with which you do the action, which is the I am the doer notion, causes pain. The second thing that causes pain is the result of the action. What is the result of the action? The result of the action, the phala of the action, as in papa or punya. The very fact that there is these opposite results of papa and punya, which doesn't seem to happen for other species. Opposite effects don't seem to exist for other species for action. Only a human action has these two results. To put it very simply, by being a vegetarian, cow doesn't acquire punya. By eating meat, tiger doesn't acquire papa. The opposite results exist only for a human action. It means what? It means that human needs to have some knowledge. Necessarily, that human being has to have some knowledge to be free from these two effects. It implies this. Are you able to follow? Supposing if these two effects aren't there at all, there's no need for this knowledge. But the very fact that these two effects are there and you should and you should be free from these effects means you need some knowledge, you need some understanding. What is that knowledge? What is that understanding? Action will inevitably produce a result. I have nothing to do with the result. Action will produce a result and I have nothing to do with the result. Prasada buddhi. Prasada buddhi. Karmanyeva adhikaraste mapaleshu kadachana. That is in relation to the result. In relation to the doing, there is no I am the doer. Kartrutva. Knowledge comes and says Kartrutva is meaningless. Number two, you have nothing to do with the fruit. All this we have seen in detail in chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. Ellam padishtom. And he's just giving the palam. That's all. All this we have seen in detail, but don't worry, you will be seeing it again and again and again and again. One choice is escape and class was the department escape. You will be listening to the same thing. You will be listening to the same thing again and again and again. This pusa weekly release la clear. Same tune. What is it? Kartrutva and that which affects the action. One is the kartrutva is that which affects the action. Second is the result, the phala, the fruit. The only remedy is what? The only remedy is what? If you have to be free from the effects of the action, if you have to be free from the effects of the action, if you have to be free from personalizing the situation, if you have to be free from all these, the only remedy is what? The only remedy is the true jnanam. What is the true jnanam? From the possessor-possessed analysis, you go to the subject-object analysis. From the possessor-possessed, you go deeper into the subject and the object. World is the object, you are the subject. Your body is the object, mind is the subject. Mind is the object, intellect becomes the subject. Intellect itself becomes the object. That which remains is the true. That which remains is the true subject, and the true subject cannot be seen by the intellect, by the mind, by the senses, by the world. That recognizing the subject as you are, that is Jivatma Paramatma Aikya. This stage is called self-realization, God realization. Again I repeat. Complicate simple method. What? Subject-object analysis. Who is the subject? World is the object, you are the subject. Very clear. World is the object, you are the subject. It stops. Stop with this, sir. Don't complicate. Don't take the analysis any further. World is the object, you are the subject. Let us stop it here, full stop. Yes, you stop it here, Punarmoha will come, Punarjanma will happen. If you stop it here, Punarmoha will come, Punarjanma will come, and then you can't complain, you can't cry, you can't ask why, you can't keep asking this question. Now a person wants freedom from this. To that person who wants freedom, what is the analysis now? Okay, forget the object completely. Let us analyze the subject. First is, you are the subject, world is treated as an object. Now, the world is left behind. When I say world is left behind, this is what the person does. When Buddha left the palace, he wanted to explore the subject. He left it. He left because he wanted to explore the subject. So at one point of time, you leave the object behind and you start exploring the subject. What is the subject? Body. Am I the body? After 1 year, the Guru in the Upanishad says, Neti. Am I the body? After 1 year, he says, no, you are not the body. Abbada. He goes back. Again 1 year later, am I the mind? Answer, Neti, not this. You are not the. He doesn't even, see, words, they are so rationed with words, the Upanishads. Weekly class மாதிரி அப்படியே verbal diarrhea எல்லாம் கிடையாதுங்க இல்லையா இதெல்லாம் verbal diarrhea அங்க வந்து the words are so they are so rationed with words நேதி you are not the mind also not this அவ்வளவுதான் நேதி நேதி the words are so limited why can't they at least give a sentence நேதி and for that student it is so joyful goes back again after 1 year. Am I the intellect? Neti. 4th year, the person doesn't come back. Why? Because he has known the true subject. He has known the true subject. So, jnanam in the true sense is this analysis. What is analysis? The analysis of the subject and the object. Whenever I say I, what is the subject that is from the I from the I comes the mind. At one stage you analyze the mind and then at deeper level you analyze the I because the mindness comes from the mamakara comes from ahankara. Are you able to follow? The I comes first and then comes the mind. So what they do at one stage analyze the mindness, leave it. At the deepest layer you analyze the I. Ramana kept on saying, find out, ask who am I, ask who am I, ask who am I. Because from the ahamkara comes the mamakara. The mindness is a modification of the I. So analyze and understand what is the I. This is the subject-object relationship. This is the subject-object analysis. இப்படிலாம் பேசினே இருந்தா பைத்தியம் முடிச்சிடாது. இப்படிலாம் அனலைஸ் பண்ணினே இருந்தா will we not go mad? Krishna is saying, you are mad now. By this method, you will come out of this madness. That's the complete opposite stance. The person says, sir, இப்படிலாம் பேசினே இருந்தா இந்த ஐ மை அகங்காரம் அதெல்லாம் பேசினே இருந்தா will we not go mad? Evam nyatva. As you are deluded now, you will not be deluded. You are deluded now, and this knowledge is the means, the method to get out of this delusion. The knowledge is the means to get out of this delusion. The madness. Moha means Moha, madness, delusion. It is, this is the way to get out of the, delusion. And what is the delusion? Instead of identifying the I rightly, you wrongly identify the I. That is moha. What is moha? Moha, delusion, means wrongly identifying the I. Who am I? I don't know, Sonna, you are all right. Who am I? I don't know. India's meeting, who am I? Don't say I don't know. They will think you are, give your card and do whatever you have to do. I don't know. No, it doesn't work. You have to, you are the, you know. But then deep inside you, you do not identify with it. So what is knowledge means? The I is identified with what? The I is recognized as what? As the knowledge. Again I repeat. The I is identified with what? The I is recognized as what? Is jnanam. The I is recognized as I. The pure I. The unconditioned I. He says, no, Kshetrajnam chapimam viddhi is the pure I. As said in the Old Testament, I am that, I am that, I am. I am so and so no solliyachina, it is corrupted, it is conditioned. I am apde utta, it is pure knowledge. If you just say I and leave it at that, it is pure knowledge. If you say I am this or I am not this, this is moha. This is delusion. Therefore, this knowledge will not give you punarmoha. This knowledge will not give you punarmoha. Are you okay till now? This is the benefit of jnana phalam in relation to the intellect, the understanding. Then there are two more verses which we will see in terms of action and the mind. We'll see that in terms of the action and in terms of the mind, we will see the effects of knowledge. There we will discuss in there, just as we discussed in terms of knowledge, there we will discuss in terms of emotion, and there in that respective verse we will talk about it in detail in relation to action, the benefit of knowledge. So 35, 36, 37 is the benefit of gaining this knowledge. As a qualified student, you go and gain the knowledge from the qualified student. Qualified guru. Qualified student will go to a qualified guru. The qualified student, even if he goes to a mediocre guru, he will still gain the knowledge. The guru may still remain mediocre only. This person will gain the knowledge. Ainala, a qualified student goes to the guru and gains this knowledge. What are the benefits of gaining this knowledge? Which the seeker is not seeking this. The seeker is not seeking this, but these are the benefits. What are the benefits? At the level of the intellect, this is the benefit. At the level of the action, there is a phalam. At the level of the mind, there is the phalam. 35, 36 and 37. With this, I conclude verse number 35. Next class, we move on to verse number 36. There are a couple of clarifications. I will take it up, and then we will Sriram. So in life, pain can be real, but affectation, misery and suffering is optional. Correct. Because at times the pain is of the body and the affectation, suffering, misery is a mental state due to wrong identification. Is my understanding correct? Yes. How can one overcome suffering due to intense acute physical pain, like childbirth, which is different from chronic pain like sciatica or post-delivery pain, which is also hard, but there have been mental techniques which shown to work on numbing chronic pain through alternative association. Of course, all this is prevalent before the advent of opioids, and now that art also is lost. Now, intense pain versus normal pain. Grades of pain. The grades of pain, the intensity of the pain is all related to the intensity of the association. Like a childbirth. The childbirth, when a person is so conditioned to believe that that childbirth is painful, from childhood, if they see serials and movies and everything where childbirth is depicted as that person will actually intensely feel the pain. There are documentaries where they have documented it really, and I have seen a few of that also. A tribal woman goes to a pregnant woman goes to the forest to collect wood, comes back with the newborn child and the wood. Comes back with the newborn child and the wood. So the sensitivity is always related to the amount of identification. More body physical oriented, more I would be in pain. More I do not identify with the pain, that much of the pain reduces. Now, I do not identify with the pain because I identify with something else. That's what the art of disassociation. I am not identifying with the body and the pain of the body because I have identified with something else. And if that something else is higher in nature and it is of unselfish in nature, to that extent, the pain will be insignificantly lower. Replacing it with something, not only replacing it with something, we have to ensure that I replace it with something higher, and also that replacing is unselfish in nature. Failures, the pain doesn't affect that much. Like a PhD student, a researcher, a scientist, when he's doing an experiment and he fails in that experiment a few times, that failure will not disappoint him. That failure will not make him, he will not get disappointed about that failure. Why? Because he has identified with something higher in that. What is the higher? If you observe carefully, there will be an element of unselfishness in that. There will be a larger cause involved in it. Where there is a larger cause involved, a higher cause involved, to that extent, the pain is less. Instead of training oneself to identify with the higher cause and deal with the lower pain, today the method is we are not saying don't take drugs or anything, medicine. Drugs in ganja illa, medicine. Medicine ke drug in dana per. We are not saying don't take that. The excessive dependency on that. The excessive dependency on that is because of what? The identification. Vedanta says pain is real. Vedanta is not saying delude yourself to believe there is no pain. It is not saying that. It is saying pain is there. Pain will be real. You have to ignore the pain and keep moving. And ignoring the pain is possible only when you teach the person and train the person to identify with a higher cause. Otherwise, simply saying ignore the pain will not work. In fact, more that person tries to ignore the pain, ends up in a greater pain. More the person tries to ignore the pain, that person ends up in a greater pain. I said, why do you ignore the pain? No, Vedanta said, Vedanta says ignore means replace it with the higher. Are you okay, Sriram? When you replace it with the higher thing, you are able to handle it. You will be able to handle it better. In all these things, the bottom line is there is no fear of pain. All that is boiled down to in one sentence what? Pain doesn't frighten a person. Pain doesn't cause fear. That's all it means. Which itself is a very good, which itself is a very high knowledge. Which itself is a very deep knowledge. Where pain doesn't cause
fear. True.
When you understand it as inevitable, when you understand it as it will be there, why fear that? That's how knowledge takes care of it. It is not saying imagine that there is no pain, imagine that there is no pain, nor is the person says imagine a good experience, imagine a good past experience and forget imagining that, forget this. 2 minutes it may work. 5 minutes it may work. The next day, the pain will come back with a greater intensity. What Vedanta says is, pain need not be frightened about. Do not fear pain. Do not fear pain. You do not fear a loss, but you will make all the efforts not to be a failure, but you are not fearing failure. In fact, most of the people, they want success out of a fear of failure.
Correct.
What they call a success is nothing but a fear of failure. Now, Vedanta says, inevitably a few times you have to fail and there is no need to
be scared of failure.
There's no need to be scared of it. That's what the intellect is all about. That's what the intellect says. There is no need to be scared of it. Why? Because it is an essential integral part. Inevitable nu solradha kuda, it is, that's why in the modern day inevitable in the modern day context I use the word package. It is the essential package of life. That being the essential package of life, why fear that? That doesn't mean I go and poke myself to have the pain. That doesn't mean I will want the pain. That doesn't mean I will not do anything to resolve the pain. Hunger is there. I'm hungry now. As soon as the session is over, I will go and appease my hunger. So I would do something to overcome the pain, but I am not afraid of going through that pain. A person who is not frightened of it is the person who has knowledge and understanding. Most of the time, either the person is hypnotized or brainwashed. Like you can make a 15-year-old person a terrorist. Very difficult to convert a 50-year-old man into a terrorist.
That's true.
It is easy to make a 15-year-old a terrorist. Almost impossible to convince a 50-year-old person to turn into a terrorist, because there it is not understanding, it is just a brainwash. You can simply hypnotize the person, brainwash the person. Now Vedanta is not talking about that also. It is talking about logic, reason, analysis, understanding, by which you overcome it. Is it okay, Sriram?
Yeah.
Shankar Kolattur. Sir, then there is there, then is there any relationship in taking responsibility for the action and doership while in action? In relation to knowledge and action, in relation to knowledge that has to drive the action, you need to take responsibility for the action as long as you have to take responsibility for the action as long as you want something, you don't want something else, you want to get something, you don't want to get something else. Only when you are in these things, you have to take responsibility for the action. When kartrutva is not there, you do that which you ought to do. For example, Gautam Buddha, Ramana Maharshi couldn't produce another Ramana Maharshi. Is he a failure in action? According to him, he says, I did what I ought to do. Are you able to follow? So, the responsibility you have to take for the action when you are result oriented, when you do not want papa, and you want, when you want to avoid a few things, when you want a few things to happen, when you do not want something else to happen, only when you are in these, you need to take responsibility for the action. Are you able to follow, Shankar? See, another way of talking about responsibility, which is very mediocre at the level of this verses. Whatever you get is your own making. Don't blame the others. You are responsible for what you are going through. All that is also responsibility, but we are not discussing responsibility from that angle in this verse. That is very elementary. Here in this verse, Jnana Palam we are discussing. So when we are discussing Jnana Palam, we discuss it at a very deeper level. What is it at the deeper level? The very kartrutva is the cause for the difficulties in the action. So it is not escaping from action, it is not having the kartrutva in action. 5th chapter, Karma Sannyasa, Jnana Karma Sannyasa. In the chapter Mulka, Jnanam Kudukurar Karmathukku. In chapter 5, it is called Karma Sannyasa. How it is not running away from action, it is sannyasa in action. Chapter 5, Karma Sannyasa. First he said act, Arjuna. Odipovada, act. Second is, let knowledge support your action. Let knowledge support your action. When knowledge supports your action, what is that? Chapter 4 is entitled Jnana Karma Sannyasa. Chapter 5 is entitled Karma Sannyasa. Which is what? Where there we will see it in who is a Jnani. When we go there, we will see all that in detail. So, in this verse, when we talk about Jnana Palam, we don't talk about it as whatever you are experiencing, it is your own making. Don't blame the world, don't blame God, don't blame the stars, don't blame the horoscope. We are not discussing taking responsibility over action from that angle here. The very moha is because of the kartrutva, which is the wrong assumption that you have behind action. Are you able to follow, Shankar? Yeah. போரும் சாருன்ட்டார் அவர், கையெழுத்து கும்பிட்டுட்டார். நிப்பாட்டுங்க போருன்றார் அவர். கரெக்டா சங்கர்? அப்படியா சொன்னீங்க? இந்த மாதிரி மிரட்டினா என்ன சொல்றது? ஸ்ரீராம், how could one practice the concept of titiksha in the context of a marriage that you brought up? What if a wife has a physically abusive husband and she is suffering but is holding on to the marriage without a choice for the sake of her children? She says it's her prarabdha and so she has no choice and endures it, but how can she accept it cheerfully, which is titiksha? And why shouldn't she decide to forego the marriage and divorce him, thereby changing her fate? As a human being, she is entitled to choice of action, so why should she accept it? Her lack of action in this context could be detrimental to her. So, why should it be frowned upon societally or in our culture? Now, the example I said very carefully. When I gave this example, I said very carefully. I remember saying that understand it in the context of the inevitable over which you have no choice. A abusive father, what can I do? I can run away. An abusive mother, yeah, abusive mother da kandipa, father abusive kadiyada, I know. Yeah. Sriram case la, father is not at all abusive, I know. Mother, I'm not saying anything about the mother. She is not abusive at all. I know. Huh? Yeah. You can't abusive mother. You can't go away from the abusive mother. Now, what do I do? Out of an understanding where I have a reason to serve that person back. I have a reason to serve that person back. That is what titiksha is all about. That person may be a cause, that person may be a cause of pain and suffering to me, but I have a reason to serve that person, which is obligation. If I have understood that I have no reason to serve the person and I do not have obligation and all that, it is all right. Are you able to follow? So the person it is not putting up with. The person says he may be this. Just as I have to serve a person with a physical disease, I have to serve a person with a mental disease also. A person has a physical disease. What is a physical disease? Clear? Those are the days where I remember my mother's father, my grandfather, my mother's aunt, she was a leprosy patient. Till the last day, my grandfather said, she will be with me only and I will, even though others said there are other places and all that? He said no. Now, just because a person has a disease, that disease is not the reason to abusive is a mental disease. Just because a person has a disease, that disease is not a reason to move away. Yes. But nobody understands it like this in the way that I'm saying. Vedanta, the vision of Vedanta is this. Just as there is a physical disease, there is a mental disease. See, we are so careful about telling people, no, even now, there are so much of advertisements that is coming, no? COVID-19, don't maintain a distance, but do not throw them out. For when there is a disease, you serve the person. Some have physical diseases, far more painful is a mental. Far more painful is a mental disease. And when a person has a mental disease, me who is not having that disease, it becomes my primary obligation to serve that person. When I am serving that person, because I am not yet fully established in knowledge or I am not yet enlightened, my mind will play tricks. Are you okay till now? My mind will start playing tricks. What is the tricks my mind will play? Why do I have to suffer anymore? Why can't I just let go of the person and go? It is exactly like letting go the person with a physical disease. In a physical disease, we are able to see and turn sympathetic. But in a mental disease, that is why we have not yet developed the sensitivity not to laugh at a mentally diseased person. No. See, when we see a mad person, we laugh. In fact, most of the jokes are about the mad person. The injury. Now, what amount of trauma, pain that person will be. So that is the reason to serve that person. In some extreme cases, that person may need help as in medical intervention or in-house treatment, whatever be the method. Mentally, the person who is not suffering from the disease takes a pratignya, takes a vow. What? I will continue to serve this person irrespective of the disease of that person. This is how we help the other. This is how we heal the other, is the vision of Vedanta. But then, in the realistic situation, my mind will play tricks. How to ensure that I don't fall a victim to the tricks, to the deception of my own mind? Vedanta gives some formulas. And tell you, whole lifetime I can talk about this titiksha, still I feel it is not explained well at all. Whole lifetime I can talk about this titiksha, still I feel, after the session is over, I will go back thinking, no, I really didn't say it in the way as to what it is, because it is such a unique, wonderful quality. In some actual situations, a person leaves also. In the vision of Vedanta, you leave only when there is a conflict with dharma and adharma. Only where there is a conflict with dharma and adharma, you leave. Where there is no conflict of dharma and adharma, but the person has a mental disease, I do not leave the person because of that. Example, Vibhishana had to leave Ravana because he wanted to place his things on dharma. So, a person wanting to leave the other is decided only when it is dharma. But even then, person like Drona, Bhishma sets a different standard. And to me personally, I have said this any number of times. Mandodari sets such a high standard. You have a husband like Ramana, enna Sita vargadal enna kashtam. What is the difficulty in being a Sita when you have a husband like Rama? Having a husband like Ravana and being like Sita is, there is something so deep in that personality. There is something that personality has a depth in that character. That depth is because of the knowledge. How does one get it? That is because of the knowledge. Therefore, to conclude, societally, it is not being frowned upon. Today, the breaking up of the marriages is just sheer selfishness, ego, that's all. Just ego. And ego will be frowned upon. They may not like it. Any separation because of ego will be frowned upon. I gave this example, the real example of the judge in the family court in Madras High Court. I asked that lady, why are you dragging for 8 years, 10 years? Why don't you finish it? She's saying, sir, only in 2% of it we can straight away decide. There we decide. 98% is just sheer ego, and we just don't know how to decide on that. Yeah, why do you drag it for 8 years, 10 years, madam? She said, sir, I am telling you, 98% is ego. I said, you are talking pure Vedanta. I said, this is what I am saying outside. It is just the 2% which has a genuinity can be dealt with, she says, where there is a genuinity in few hearings, it is done. Most of it is why? Because of the what is being frowned upon. It is not the sanctity to the institution of marriage that we are talking about. The ego and the self-centeredness and having received a benefit, not having the sense of gratitude is what is frowned upon. Therefore, if that particular lady has to decide to forego and go in her way, it is not a wrong action. It is not a wrong action at all, provided she has all this knowledge, she has this understanding, and she understood that, okay, with all this understanding and everything, it is extremely dangerous to be with this person anymore. Therefore, the separation happens not out of anger and hatred towards that person, but out of an understanding that tiger kitte the 4 adi thalli nikkarudha correct na, there is no anger and hatred towards the tiger. Nor will I go and tell everybody else. Supposing if somebody else falls in love with the tiger, I will not go to that person and say, Jagrati aranga avarkitta, he is a very bad person. He cheated me like that. And all this I wouldn't dream of even. So when we talk about not moving away, just because a person is diseased, disease is not the reason to move away, and the diseases is of two, physical and mental. Physical disease with the aid of medication and other help can be dealt with easily. The mental diseases is you have to stay with the person for a long period of. Even the psychiatric people, they say, I know because I'm also part of it, sending so many people to this. You have to educate the people around, no? You have to educate the people around and tell them that it is a marathon. You have to be in it for a long period of. You have to be in it for a long period of time. It's a lifetime project in itself. It means I need that much of sympathy. I need that much of compassion. I need that much of energy to pull myself right till the end. And where does it come from? The compassion, the energy, the strength comes from the knowledge. So, yeah. Is it okay? So understand it in this way.
Sure.
This is how this is the vision of Vedas, the Vedanta. It's not that they don't talk about leaving. In fact, it is Vedanta that says, Vanaprastha ashrama, sannyasa ashrama la irukkudu. At one stage you have to leave, it says. At one stage you have to be in marriage. At another stage you have to leave out. No other system talks about getting in and getting out. No. Vedanta talks about getting in and Vedanta talks about getting out also. What is the reason that is driving it makes the difference. Is it okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Understand it in that way. That is why.
That's why intention always comes.
Vanaprastha and sannyasa is a dharma of life. We have said it here. It means at one point of time the husband and wife will live a separated life. Sannyasa means literally they will move away also. Now here we say if you don't move away itself is a sin, we say. So it's not that married forever kind of imaginary movie stuff we don't have. We get in and we also have to
move out.
Get out. We know at one point we have to move in, at another point we have to move. Therefore, Vedanta is not, why I'm giving this example is, it's not against moving out. The reason that drives it is the factor here. The deciding factor is the reason. Is it okay, Sriram?
Sure.
Yeah. Last question and I conclude. A person identifies with Jivatma without Ahankara and a person identifies with Jivatma without Ahankara and Mamakara and think that Paramatma as the doer, seen and seer. Is this correct identification? In a very limited way, Sivajnanam, you are correct. I am qualifying and saying you are correct in a very limited way. For in the true sense, even Paramatma is not the doer. There is no seen and seer in the ultimate sense. But in a very relative sense, you are correct. Because in some verses, Krishna himself says, I am the doer. And then he says, I am not the doer. So in a very limited way, you are correct. In a very limited way, you are correct. This identification, is this a correct identification? A person says, without Ahankara and Mamakara and Paramatma as the doer, the seen and the seer. In a very limited way, you are correct. But this is not absolute. In the absolute sense, the answer will be different. Is it okay?
Okay.
Yeah. With this, we conclude for today and we continue next week.